Hi, welcome to my brand new channel, The Strange Connector. Today I'm excited to chat about paper, specifically an amazing sketchbook I've recently discovered. I'll also touch on the history of paper making in Fabriano, Italy, and introduce you to a charming little company from there. Not the big name you might be thinking of either. So grab a cup of tea or coffee, pick up your sketchbook, easel, knitting, or whatever art supplies you enjoy, and feel free to create while you listen. A quick note. I am a trained artist. My work is multidisciplinary, and I've studied art at a postgraduate level. However, I trained as a sound artist rather than a visual artist. I've taken other art courses too after university, with a stronger emphasis on visual art, including an art foundation, but I mostly specialised in areas like video, installation and sculpture, which I'm not that good at either. So I'm largely self-taught and more of an enthusiastic amateur when it comes to drawing and painting. This is to say I am not an expert in these fields, so please take everything I say with a pinch of salt. My channel is all about having fun and exploring these creative fields. I do, however, have a bit of an obsession with art materials, especially paper. I also would like to add that I have a tendency to speak really, really, really fast. So, if my cadence may sound strange, it's because I am trying very, very, very hard to not go off on too many tangents and ramble, and to not speak too fast. So please be patient with me. Also, please be patient with me, as this is my first such YouTube video. So I'm still working things out. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into it. On a recent trip to Venice, I stopped by an art shop called Bottega dell'Arte and discovered the watercolour sketchbook that was possibly the most beautiful sketchbook I had ever seen. Unfortunately for me, I found this treasure just a few hours after I had already bought a Vergatone sketchbook from a Fabriano boutique for €25. And while that sketchbook is very nice, and more on that later, it's made of only 30% cotton and is fairly small at 10 by 15 centimeters, making it a tad expensive for its size. If I hadn't purchased that one, I could have chosen two of the gorgeous 100% cotton sketchbooks in a larger 15 by 20 centimeter size from Bottega dell'Arte, or even the bigger A4 size. A4. But since I had already spent €25 at the other shop, I was on a tight budget and could only afford the smaller size of, drumroll, 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 these. Isn't it lovely? This one cost €24.90, so less than that tiny Vergatone. So it cost €24.90 at the shop, but I got an extra 20% off for chatting about art supplies with the owner, who was a big nerd like me, who gave me a 20% discount. So if you get these directly from the supplier's website, however, they're even cheaper. Though I loved supporting Bottega dell'Arte since it's such a wonderful shop. So definitely check them out if you're ever in Venice. And they even have a dog, which is not great if you're scared of dogs, but I love dogs, and cats and pets, all animals. So yeah, so I very much enjoyed it there. This sketchbook is available in both ivory and white, and you can choose between 140 GSM and 300 GSM paper. I usually prefer the thicker 300 GSM paper, but I wanted to try the lighter option, and the 140 GSM model has more pages, 35 to be exact. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly how many pages the 300 GSM version had, but I think it was at least 20, which is usually the norm for this size of sketchbook. The paper is sized watercolor paper. It's sized with gelatin, so it's not vegan. You can also choose from different cover colors and embossed designs. I chose the 3 Graces. The paper has a texture that feels like a mix between hot press and cold press. It feels great for painting, as it has a light texture that allows paint to go on as if it were cold press, while at the same time it's smooth enough for pencil use, making it suitable for dry materials and water-soluble ones like watercolor crayons, as you'll see. The edges of the paper are raw, and on this particular size of sketchbook they look more torn than deckled. I suspect you might find fully deckled edges on the larger sketchbook sizes. Either way adds a nice touch to the look. The first 2 pages are slightly stuck together at the spine, so they don't open as wide as the other pages in the book. This is common with this type of binding. However, I personally don't mind because I usually use those first couple of pages to test out colours and materials and things like that, but I thought you should know in case you mind. Now, I'll tell you a bit about the company that makes these sketchbooks and about the history of paper making in Fabriano, and then I'll move on to testing mine out for you. So this is the website of Viceversa, which is the company that makes the sketchbook I just showed you. So this is the paper. They have handmade paper, 140 GSM, they've got a 300 GSM, they've got little packets of paper as well, they've got it in hot press, cold press and rough. I think that's what that means. Well, it says fine grained. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of confused as to whether the one that I've got is the fine grained or the hot press one. But if it's the fine grained one, it's much smoother than a cold press. And if it's the satin, so the hot press, it has a little bit of a tooth. I think it's perfect. So it's the perfect in between. So these are all the different available types of sketchbook that they have at the moment. So these are the sketchbooks, like the one that I just showed you. They come in a series of sizes, so 8 by 11, that's centimeters, so it's quite tiny, for only €6. And you've got your 10 by 15 for €9. The one that I got was a 15 by 20, so I paid much more than it's listed for on the website, but you also got to think about shipping. And they list all the shipping prices at the bottom here on the shipping cost. This is the sketchbook that I bought, so it's available in ivory or white. The grammage is 140 or 300. And then these are all the different designs available, including Botticelli's Venus and the 3 Graces. And the one I got was this one, was the purple 3 Graces cover. I don't think you can see, no, you can't see the designs if you click on it, but they're all really beautiful. Bizarrely, the website does not state that this is 100% cotton watercolor paper, but it is. And if you buy the actual book, it comes with information that tells you that, and it behaves like 100% cotton watercolor paper, sized watercolor paper. So it gives information about the cover being made of pine cellulose, but it doesn't say anything about the paper. It just says handmade paper. So I think they assume that you go onto their bit with the information on their paper. So if you go into their information about their handmade paper, it tells you that it's sized, that it's handmade. It gives you the information about how they make it. So the company was started by 3 female artists who are here, Roberta Gagliardini, Melania Tozzi, and Roberta Brencio. And some of their artwork is actually available for sale in the art section here. And Luigi Mecella is the master paper maker. Most artists who work with paper are familiar with the Fabriano brand. which was once owned by the state and even produced all the euro banknotes. Since 2002, it has been owned by Fedrigoni SPA, which is part of a larger international company. However, many artists outside Italy don't realize that Fabriano is also a town with a long and rich history in papermaking. It's important to note that Fabriano's Fedrigoni mills aren't the only paper mills in the area, and there are others that use the traditional papermaking techniques the town is famous for. So, paper was originally invented in China and made its way to Europe during the Islamic Golden Age. The Islamic Empire introduced it to Spain, which was then under its control, and from there, or from maritime commerce routes directly with the empire, so there are various versions of these stories, it reached Fabriano in the 13th century, during the Middle Ages. Local papermakers in Fabriano came up with several innovative techniques that are still used worldwide today. For example, they started using gelatin sizing in cotton paper, initially just to repel insects, but later to enhance and modify the paper's qualities. They also invented the watermark, leading to the development of watercolour paper as we know it. These innovations spread from Fabriano to France and then other parts of Europe as more paper manufacturers emerged and then took over. It's remarkable that such significant advancements came from this small town in the Marche region of Italy, which is also, incidentally, close to where my family has its roots. So I think it's super cool. I find it fascinating, actually, that the Marche region has a vibrant artisan industry. In fact, if I remember correctly, several famous luxury fashion brands also have manufacturing centres there. Additionally, Fabriano is recognised by UNESCO for its contributions to handmade paper making. So in conclusion, beyond the Fabriano brand, there's a whole world of paper making happening in the town, including at Viceversa, the company that I'd like to talk about. So, back to Viceversa. Here are the key points I learned from watching the Italian language video and reading the About Us section of the Viceversa website. In early 2019, 3 young women, artists, passionate about Fabriano and its craft sector, established the Viceversa Social Cooperative, so it's a cooperative. Viceversa focuses on the production and sale of a handmade paper using the ancient techniques from 13th century Fabriano. The cooperative employs traditional equipment like vats, looms, donkey backs, felts, and handcrafted wooden drying racks. It is a collaboration with master paper maker Luigi Mecella, who has experience since 1985 at the Paper and Watermark Museum, which is also in Fabriano. Mecella registered as a craftsman in 1990 with the Chamber of Commerce for Industry, Crafts and Agriculture of Ancona. He manages demonstration, production and teaching activities at the Paper and Watermark Museum and has developed his own product line. Viceversa, the company, aims to train and disseminate artisan paper production techniques to young and aspiring paper makers. This is the part that I think is really cool. There are plans to include organising workshops and training sessions at the cooperative's headquarters, paper mill or schools. And their primary goal is to include people with disabilities in the workforce, viewing them as a valuable resource, deserving of training, of specialist training. They have, to further this, they have a partnership with La Casa Madonna della Rosa Onlus, which is active in Fabriano since 1997 in support of disabled individuals. So they have a small, fully equipped and accessible paper mill that they have established there for handmade paper production, engaging disabled users in various activities, and so teaching them paper making. And proceeds from these handmade paper products are used for various supportive activities. So I think this is really cool. So another objective is to create a network for local craftsmanship to preserve traditional techniques and products. And local artisans, including Melania Tozzi, Roberta Gagliardini, and then Mario Cini, who's somebody else who's not one of the founders, sell their products on an online platform active since May 2020, and they want to expand this to others. The platform features unique pieces produced by small local artisans, showcasing the value of handmade paper products and derivatives. So that's it. So that's all I gathered from this section. So I then contacted the company via email for more information on the sketchbook that I bought. And they were very responsive, incredibly nice. I'm very pleased to be contacted by somebody from the UK. So, I mean, I emailed them in Italian, so I had to translate the response, but they said that the master, so now I'm kind of like reading the response or part of the response. The master paper make is called Luigi Mecella, and he produces the paper here in Fabriano as it was once done, with cotton macerated in vats, kneaded by the Hollander machine, and then creating the sheets with a round machine similar to the one exhibited in our paper museum here in Fabriano. Or he creates the sheet by hand with a frame, donkey's back, pressing and air drying. The cover of your book, I mean my sketchbook, is made like this. I forward a photo of the matrix with the theme sun that is placed on the frame before the cotton cellulose is drawn. So I'm showing it here. Both are processes dating back to the medieval Fabriano tradition. If you have the opportunity to come to Italy and Fabriano, come and visit us and we will let you see and touch with your own hands. It is our intention in 2025 to open the paper mill and the artisan laboratory to the public. So I thought I should share that because that's also very cool. So there isn't a whole lot of information about some of the items. So I've actually ordered some of these just to have a look, because it doesn't say whether they're 100% cotton, 30% cotton. I'm assuming that when it says handmade paper, they mean that 100% cotton paper, because that's what the website said for the sketchbook that I bought, which then came with information that it's 100% cotton. These look very interesting, very promising. However, these, I believe, are not 100% cotton. They're a mix. Here we go. So I just clicked on the smallest size just to see. So these are 50% cotton fibre and 50% coniferous and hardwood cellulose. And the paper is available in a variety of colours, and you can choose, for example, a blue cover and green paper. I have ordered some of these and I'll let you know what they're like. There are also some fancier sketchbooks. So there are also books that have flowers and lavender within the cover. And the paper is, here it says 70% cotton and 30% cellulose. I don't know what it's like. So these are all the sketchbooks. And you'll see here, there is a sketchbook that looks suspiciously familiar. Let me see if I can go into the Italian version. Yes, so on the Italian version of the site, on the English one, it doesn't work. The English version doesn't seem to work as well. So on the English version, there is a booklet that is very similar, except it's bigger. So it's bigger and it's 140 grams. So I presume this has the same amount of pages as the booklet that I've got. It doesn't say, oh yes, it says 140 grams cotton. So these look like the Vergatone by Fabriano, except the GSM is 140, so it's thinner paper, but it's bigger, it's got more pages. So I personally, instead of buying Vergatone, I would buy this, or I would have bought this. They've got these things as well, if you like, kind of slightly more expensive. I mean, I suppose these are gifting things, gifting items. I mean, I'm not one for kind of fully leather books, but a lot of people like them, so I'm showing you. They've got an art section as well, where you can buy art by the 3 female artists that have founded this company. And they also say that they would like to list art from local artists in this section as well. I don't know, I'm just showing you because I think it's pretty cool. It's a cool little company. I began my testing using a Pentel pigment brush pen, 2 Ecoline markers, because I find that they can be quite rough on paper, a Pentel water-soluble brush pen, a Copic pigment fine liner, a Palomino Blackwing in matte, which is the softest pencil, a Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelle, 2 Luminance pencils, and Neocolor 2. And also my Daniel Smith split primary palette with a silver black velvet portable brush. So here I'm just showing that there's a bit of a gap between the cover and the first page, which means that if you want it to be flat, you might have to put something underneath it, which is not a problem for me, but it might be for you, so worth mentioning. So I began with the watercolors, and to my surprise, the paper, although very smooth, like hot press paper, behaved like cold press paper. So I had no problem, as you can see, spreading the watercolor onto the paper and fading it out. And I'm telling you this as somebody who does not use hot press watercolor paper, because I have such trouble with watercolor. Like, that never seems to dry, and I can't get nice blends. So I then moved on to do some of this. I don't really know what it is, and it didn't work very well because the camera was in my face. My setup, I need to improve my setup. I couldn't see what I was doing. I had the light and the camera in my face, and I couldn't see the sheet of paper, and the yellow was already dry. And anyway, it's a flipping mess. But I had done some testing on the previous page, so take my word for it. It's nice paper. Let me know if you would like me to do any particular tests on it, and I will endeavour to do it on a different video maybe. But hopefully I've done enough that you can see what's going on, especially the top 3 swatches, which I then very helpfully put my hand into. You'll see that later in the video. I didn't realise that I did this, and I just put my hand on the swatches. But yeah, I really liked the paper. I really, really liked it. I was so amazed. And then I thought I'd try with the pencils to see how, because the paper is so smooth, I thought it would be excellent for pencil. So I went in with a Luminance. And I made a bit of a haul, not because of the paper. So the paper is quite thin because I chose the thin paper. But I didn't realise I had created a bit of a gap by pressing on the other page with my hand. So I lifted the page that I was drawing onto, and that's why I got a bit of a hole there through. And then I realised that I'd done that, so I didn't do that again. But so you can see that I've done some testing previously and nothing came through. So I went in again with the Luminance. So just trying to fade it out. And then I just put in a bit of yellow to see. I'm doing it really badly. At some point I'll show you, this is where I decided that I would do some artwork, just to show you how the paper behaves. Like I said, this is my first video. So I decided to use some Melts by Holbein, which is a bit like an odorless mineral spirit in pen form, just to see how the paper would behave. And unfortunately, my pen is a bit dry, so it didn't work too well. I mean the pen, not the paper, but nothing came through. And I had no problem whatsoever on the paper, other than the pen being a bit battered. Yeah, so I put down some more dry pencil for comparison, and then I went in with a museum aquarelle and with some water on top to see how the paper would handle watercolor pencil. And as you can see, it melts beautifully. No problem at all. There are some marks. Unfortunately, I forgot to restart the camera, so a section was skipped. But there are some very, very faint marks. But I think this may be due to the fact that the paper is really thin. And so I might have pressed a bit too hard, and that created indentations. That meant maybe the pigment collected in there. But either way, I was very pleased with the result. There is a very faint mark, but it's... I mean, you might actually want that. You might not want the whole thing to dissolve. You might want to have a faint mark there. Then I went in with a Pentel brush, but I realised that the brush was dry, so I had to get a different brush, which is also a pigment brush. So it's pigment ink. So this is another Pentel type of Pentel brush pen, which is also pigment ink. So I put a lot of ink down and nothing came through. So it's very well-sized paper. If you do this on another cheap handmade paper like Cardi, it will come through. It will come through to the other side, but not on this paper. And this is kind of in a similar price range, this sketchbook, to Cardi. So it's excellent. Then I put in a lot of water, quite a lot of water. And then I decided to go in with the Ecoline to see how it handles that, because I find Ecoline can be quite tough on cotton watercolor paper. It can pill it. I generally prefer Ecoline on bamboo paper by Clairefontaine. And you can see there is a faint... you can see where the marker initially went down. But that's just a feature of the paper, so you might like that, you might not like that, so I'm showing it to you, and you make your own decision. I personally quite like that, because I like to do a drawing and then kind of dissolve, blend, use the water to blend. So here, no idea what I was doing. I'm doing the same, but with the water-soluble brush pen this time. And the brush with water to liquefy it. And then I went in with more Ecoline. Like just straight Ecoline onto the paper. And then blended it. No idea what I was doing. I mean, I wasn't trying to do something aesthetic. I was just trying to put lots of stuff down to see what would happen. And nothing came through to the other side either. The paper kind of buckled a bit, but that's to be expected with the thin paper that I chose. So nothing came through either. So then I decided to try some pencil, some graphite pencil, to see how graphite would look on this paper. And you can see it's fairly smooth. So I thought, why not show you the difference with cold press paper. So here I'm using Arches. And you can see, you really see the tooth of the paper when you're working on a cold press watercolor paper. So do you see the difference? So this paper behaves like a cold press watercolor paper, but its tooth is similar to that of a hot press watercolor paper. Here I'm showing you Meaden hot press watercolor paper, which is the same as Baong Academy, just in pure white. So I think it's fantastic paper to use for pencils and watercolor, so dry and wet media. So here I'm using your run-of-the-mill kind of crappy mechanical pencil, just to show you how that goes down, and it goes down very smoothly. No grain at all. So yeah, here I'm showing you that nothing came through. So I went down with some Neocolor, and I was interested in testing how the grain would affect the Neocolor, and you see how smooth it is, absolutely smooth. So this would be good paper, maybe also for oil pastel. So here I'm trying smudging as well. And look how smooth that goes down. It's wonderful. I mean, I really like it. And then I put in water to see how it would behave. So I had some left on the brush, so I put it there. Just painted. I don't know if you know, you can paint with Neocolor, not just melt it. So then I put some dry Neocolor down, and I don't know what I'm trying to do. Oh yeah, okay, yep. Here I'm trying to do what I did above with the watercolor pencils. So I'm kind of working on top of a bit where I pressed quite hard. I wrote Neocolor, just to see if there's any kind of ghosting. Well, not ghosting, but you know what I mean, like any traces. And it is showing a bit, which again might be something that you want or something that you don't want. But it might also be due to the fact that the paper is quite thin, so it's getting indented. I don't know. I personally don't mind it showing a bit like that. And compared to what would happen on a cold press paper, it's nothing. Like on the cold press paper, you would fully get the texture. So then I started doing a drawing on the back. So this is where I want to show you first with dry media with a pencil, and then with wet media on the right hand side. I picked an image of a statue from Unsplash. I quite like working with statues because I can use them as kind of very loose inspiration, and then I can do what I want with it. I'm not really interested in realism personally. I'm not too bothered with, I mean, unless you're doing a portrait of somebody specifically, I mean, I'm not too bothered with things being exactly identical. I'm kind of a bit loser. So I'm doing the drawing on the left, and then I'm going to go in and do a painting on the right. So I decided to wet the paper as much as I could. This is something that I like to do usually on really, really big sheets of watercolor paper, so it was perhaps not a very good idea to do it in such a small sketchbook. But I really wanted to see how the paper would behave when completely sodden with water. So, and I'm going in with a sponge. And then I forgot to restart my camera. I stopped it to get a towel, and I forgot. And I had the brilliant idea after I did that to experiment with some Pyrrole Orange. Because I'd seen somebody use Pyrrole Orange and Ultramarine, and I thought it was a really nice combo. But unfortunately, I didn't know what I was doing, so mine became a complete and utter mess. Yeah, so I as the Italians say, let's stendiamo un velo pietoso. But the thing that you can probably see is you did see the amount of water that I put onto the page, and the page really handled that, and I was literally scrubbing it with a sponge. And I'm really sorry that part didn't get recorded, because I really went for it. And as you can see, it's basically flat. It's flat. It held up beautifully, even though my artwork is not beautiful. The paper did its job. So I would wholly recommend this paper. So in conclusion, even though kind of everything went wrong, because this was my first YouTube video, I hope you can see what the paper can do. I really love this paper. I'm definitely going to buy some more. In fact, I have already bought some more. Yeah, I just think it's a very, very cool company. And the paper is a really good, cheap alternative to some better known papers. And the sketchbook is just gorgeous. So, Viceversa, well done. So I got 4 more sketchbooks by Viceversa, and you shall hear about them in due time. But for now, I hope this was informative despite my, let's call it, DIY approach. And yeah, see you all soon, hopefully. Bye bye.